Welcome back to Survivanomics. I'm Sebastian, and in this episode we're diving into Step 4, investments and when to move your money. We'll talk about managing your funds to not only stay afloat, but also to grow your wealth systematically, especially if your income is as unpredictable as a plot twist in a movie. As I was going through my own financial struggles and recovering through the unfolding of what is now the Survivanomics strategy, I was amazed at how my accounts and envelopes, also known as my jars, began to fill, even as my main operating account would flounder at times, when creative projects were harder to land. I saw that I needed to set limits on the amount of money that I would let accumulate in an emergency bill envelope, especially as I was able to avoid using those funds more and more often. Month after month, the envelope would just keep growing without depleting it. It wasn't safe to have that much cash sitting around the house. Likewise, if I got a string of jobs and managed my expenses well, I also saw my operating account holding more money than was necessary. And in addition, my tax and investment savings account was still holding money after my tax returns were completed. I had to start looking at what limits to set around the cash I'd have on hand. The question became what part of or when that money should be put into an investment that would let it grow for me. Wealth would never come from saving alone, since savings are only a seed for wealth. Something had to be done to make it grow on its own. So, here are some of the rules I set in place for knowing when and where to move money. Let's keep it general for now, and we'll do a deeper dive into specific investments in a later video. First, consider your operating account, used for most of your day-to-day transactions. Your operating account is your financial barometer. It's like a car in a movie's car chase scene. The better you drive, the easier it'll be to make a successful getaway. Sometimes you have to hit the gas to deal with the situations you're in, while other times you have to hit the brakes to ensure you don't crash. It's a balancing act. Likewise, with your operating account, aim to get to a balance between $4,000 to $15,000 in that specific account. No more and no less for the typical person. Now, don't let those numbers overwhelm you. It may take time to see more than a few hundred in your account on payday, but you'll get there. I chose these figures because $4,000 is more than enough to cover a month of bills for most people, and a top-end balance of about $15,000 is likely to cover most people for a few months if you're in a fluctuating income pattern. That said, life is different for all of us, so you may need to adjust these figures to match your personal situation. Just keep in mind that I'm basing this on a more bare-bones situation. As you drop your paychecks into this account, this range ensures you have enough to cover basic expenses during dry spells and busy seasons. In this way, your bank balance generally serves as a signal in case your spending accelerates too quickly. If that happens, you should be hitting the brakes on expensive monthly habits well before you find yourself falling to near $0. I prefer to see that I never dropped below $8,500, and if I was getting close, it was time to hustle for income. The goal of my hustle was to bring the operating account closer to a full fuel tank of $15,000. If the operating account exceeds $15,000, that became one of the signals that it was time to invest. Once you climb to 16 or 17 grand, you will need to find an investment to divert that extra $1,000 or more dollars into, so you aren't sitting on cash that isn't growing. As mentioned before, we'll cover specific investment options in a future segment, such as various market trades or real estate, etc., depending on your risk tolerance. Now, let's talk about your emergency bill envelope. Think of it as your financial lifeboat. Initially, you're aiming to keep it building monthly, using it only for absolutely dire emergencies until you hit $2,000 or $3,000. Don't worry if $3,000 sounds high. A 10% savings each month in that envelope will add up over time. Once you hit that goal, keep $1,000 as your immediate rescue fund and channel the rest into a high-interest savings account or a well-researched investment. Don't stop saving your 10% emergency money though. Keep adding to your emergency bill envelope. Every time you've built up an extra $1,000 or more, move or invest those funds as well. If you happen to hit a crisis, maybe your operating account drops due to an emergency, then you can use these emergency funds to bring your operating account back up to an acceptable level. But it's better if you leave this money alone and find a few extra gigs. This way your safety net grows, and so does your potential for future prosperity. Your tax and investment savings account is your secret weapon. By putting aside 20% of your income here, you are preparing for tax season and potential investments. Although it is true that some people will be in a higher tax bracket and may want to adjust the percentage, many jobs already deduct tax for you, and you'll be taking this 20% out of what you receive as well. This is why I suggest you take 20% of any funds that you could potentially be taxed on, since it includes money that employers may already be deducting from your check. That said, if you know you're in a higher tax bracket and have to do all your own deductions, it'll be important that you adjust the percentage you place into your tax and investment savings account accordingly. Discussing this with a financial advisor may help you nail a percentage that works for you specifically. Otherwise, I suggest the 20% as a minimum to assist your investment options at the end of the year. In any case, the idea is to set aside this percentage of the money you get and look for as many legal tax deductions as possible when tax season hits. This ensures you keep as much of that money as possible, including the possibility of a sizable tax return. Not only that, but you can use this account to both pay your accountant and any tax you actually do owe. When your taxes are done, use what's left for smart investments and rebuild that account for the following tax year. This means it isn't just saving, it's strategic financial planning. Okay, let's talk credit cards and cash floats. As I was rebuilding my life after my couch surfing experience, solid credit was another thing I wanted to ensure I had. As much as I promised myself I would never get into debt, I needed a way to be smart about using a credit card to build good credit, and there was also a special way to use a card that could save me money. A cashback credit card can be a tool, not a trap, if used wisely. I can't emphasize this enough. Credit cards will ruin your wealth development if you carry balances over time. The high interest you pay on them after the 20 or 30-day grace period will eat money out of your pocket. The only time they are of benefit is if you already have the cash for what you're buying and you pay it off on the same day or shortly after you make a purchase with them. The reason these cashback cards have a benefit is that some cards give you 1 to 3% cash back on purchases. That means that all of your flights, groceries, or other big ticket expenses come to you at a 1 to 3% discount if you pay off the card before the interest charges kick in. So, if you have the discipline to pay it off right away, buy necessities. Pay it off immediately and enjoy the cashback benefits. As an added bonus, this will help you build your credit, particularly if you are starting this process after a bankruptcy or as a new credit holder. Let's talk about your cash float now, which I suggested you hold at around $200 or $300. It will be used to pull your 10% emergency bill savings from as income is generated more than anything else. However, you can use cash for purchases that are cash only, such as haircuts, laundry, parking meters, kids' allowances, or roadside vendors. Otherwise, it's better to make purchases that you can track on a debit or banking card. It makes it easier for you to audit yourself and see receipts for when you're spending money. Your cash float is generally for small items that require cash only. Your cash float is your mini financial hub for immediate small expenses and a way to be conscious of not going through cash too quickly. Keep in mind, it's about smart, trackable spending. Here's an exercise for any of you that have started applying Survivanomics in your own lives. Now that your accounts, envelopes, or jars are set up as suggested, start to move your funds into position according to this lesson. Share in the comments what this does in terms of giving you a signal to invest. Do you find this helps you with managing your past stress levels around finances? Share your experiences with how the logic of these rules impacts you. Don't be shy if you're just starting or if you're more experienced. These are universal methods of developing wealth, so we all want to understand the benefits they provide from beginner to expert. Remember, Survivanomics is about making each financial decision a step towards prosperity. Once I was starting to set these rules up for where and when to move my money, I was starting to see that I was moving from surviving to thriving. I had become someone that could put his money to work as an investor. You'll start seeing this too, and you'll be able to make detailed decisions on investments, which we'll be looking at soon. However, Just before we tackle the details on investment, in our next episode, we'll delve into cutting unnecessary expenses and saving big. It's about looking for money losses that you can fix and keeping more of your hard-earned money where it belongs, with you. And if you're finding value in our financial journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join us as we rewrite our financial scripts for success. Remember, fight the darkness, put truth in story. We'll see you next time.